Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm McSnazzi and we're back again in Planet Zoo today. This episode I kind of wanted to fill in some of the gaps that we have. Starting here first with just this little sliver here. We can't really fit any animal exhibit into this spot. And what we really need is a little food court. So this is a good example of how to use these small slivers of space within your own zoos and how to fill them up. You just got to work with the space you have now. I would like a, bigger food court, but, I think it turns out great in the end of how we use this space. And either way, it's just wasted space. Really, all we would do is either put foliage or some sort of... That's about it. I mean, some statue centerpiece, but it's just way too big of an area for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little food court out of it. Now this is right next to the exhibit that we built in last episode, which was the Greater Flamingo Exhibit. And this is sort of right along the path of it. I didn't want to put any other attraction here, as I've already stated, so the food court's good. I was wondering what kind of material to make this out, because we haven't really established a theme for this park, and I don't really necessarily want to. I want it to be kind of realistic. I don't think parks necessarily have a theme, they just kind of make things work for whatever area you're in. So I decided to mess around with this wood piece. It seemed really bright and a little too modern when I started working with it, but I ended up embellishing it with some duller colors, so it turns out well in the end, as you'll see when we add a little bit of accent trim with some just basic wood pieces. And we're just going to use a nice generic roofing, what we normally do throughout the park. There's not a lot of roof choices and just a lot of building choices in the game, like there was in Planet Coaster, in terms of just generic sort of things. There's a lot of themed pieces, and the 4 or 3 or 5 themes, whatever, how many they have, are pretty fleshed out, but other than those 4 themes, there's really not a lot of generic pieces that just kind of work. So we kind of gotta do with what we got. We gotta use these generic windows. These I think are the best windows in the game right now. They work on basically any structure. But at the end of the day, we need to embellish a lot of our structures with custom trim, just custom additions to these sort of wall pieces, etc., in order to make them look a little more generic, like they work in just a regular park than a super duper themed zoo. So here we're just going to use these, I think they're called Planet Zoo wood poles, and they look great on these corners. They blend in really well with this wood texture that we chose for the actual building tiles, and I think it looks great. And I'm just going to let it play for a little bit because you can see what we did here. And that's going to be just about it for building 1. I really liked how the building turns out. I think it fits well with the environment, but it also looks generic enough that it sort of fits a realistic sort of theme. Here we're going to put a little bit of embellishment on the side of the building. We're going to, put a little fence, makes it look nice, and we're going to put these little boards up again that Warren have climate change or whatever you want to put on the screen. I think they look really great. So they're good in these little like dead spots, like the sides of this building. You don't just want to leave that plain, and you don't necessarily want to fill it with a ton of foliage, because then it's going to look really weird next to the building that it's like completely covered, but you have windows on it. It would just look really weird. So I think putting these little signs in here, kind of next to the flamingo habitat, looks pretty good. And here we're just filling in the gaps along the side here. We got the plaza shape sort of set out, but we couldn't fill up everywhere because of the gorge or river being right next to it with all this nice rock work that we already have. So we're gonna have to fill in these gaps and make it look really natural and nice. Make it look like they just kind of shoved this food court in next to these natural features, and it just turns out that it just blends well with the natural features in the end. And that's sort of the aesthetic I want to go with mostly in this zoo, and just mostly in general. I think I want to move a little more towards, it's still going to be a realistic zoo, don't get me wrong, but I want to move a little more towards this potentially being a conservation zoo, conservation park, etc. Lots of big foliage, lots of nice environments, not super manicured. And I think you see this at a lot of zoos too. There's a lot of greenery, because I mean it is a zoo and it's all about conservation, you know, saving the world, etc. So I kind of want to move a little bit towards that style. I've seen a lot of people on YouTube also doing that style, and I think it works really well right now with what we have. Not a lot of the pieces are super colorable, etc. So a lot of the theme plays well with the whole super extreme foliage. Looks like it's very outdoorsy, and it just looks really good. So we're gonna start using a lot of big foliage, and I kind of want to make it look this alpine-y feel that we've been going with. I chose the taiga biome to put this zoo in when you pick it, so we kind of want to do a northern North American sort of feel. With the foliage, lots of dark green, lots of pines, a little bit of oranges here and there, a little bit of autumn feel as well, but a lot of pine, a lot of dark greens. I've been doing with some of the flower beds so far a little bit lighter colors, more deciduous, but I kind of want to move a little bit more towards that, you know, very North American, you know, foliage greenery style. As I said, lots of dark greens. And you'll see that at the end of this video, we're going to have our first real-time recording that we've had in the series in general, where I'm just going to jump into Tejit Cam, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically first-person cam in the game. We're going to walk around the park so far, and look what I've done. I've done a lot of foliage work off-camera to really fill up these areas and put in this new sort of foliage style that I want to go for. I've already started it. You saw it a little bit in episode 2 around the staff center, where we put a lot of thick foliage with pine and everything, but it was even a little too sparse. You know, I'm getting a little even thicker with the foliage, and we're going to make it look like it's super like overgrown, nice. You're in the middle of this big natural forest, and you're just seeing these animals, and you know, they feel at home, and you feel like you're in a nice conservation zoo, and it's just a great place to be. And that's the style I want to go for. I think it looks really well in this game, and I think I have a knack for it. So we'll see how it turns out in the end. I've already sort of started this with the big river gorge that we've made here, just from the get-go, so I think it's going to work out, and I think it looks really, really nice once we jump into that real-time footage and we actually see what I've done. Now here we're going to add some picnic tables. I love how these added these in the base game. In Planet Coaster, they added these in a DLC, I believe, and it was great when they added them in there, but I mean, they look great, and they work really well with the paths. The guests use them. They'll get a drink or some food from these stands here, and they'll bring them over to the tables and eat with them. And they have a lot of nice bench choices and a lot of nice umbrella choices, even more than they had back in Planet Coaster. So I think they just look great. I tried recoloring them here. Didn't really want to mess with the color palette. I think those umbrellas worked with this whole darkish, brownish sort of feel we have here with the brick and these buildings. So for this dead green space, I couldn't put any path in, but I think it's a good thing because we're going to fill it with this nice natural sort of flower bed. Now it starts out as like just any other flower bed. I fill it with tons of flowers, and I cut that out because, as I said before, we want to move towards this overgrown sort of aesthetic with lots of dark greens, lots of, you know, Northwest, not even Northwest, just Northern North American feel, lots of pines, etc. And I felt this was just a bunch of flowers, made it look like a super manicured like flower bed next to this food court, which would look great in a normal zoo, but if I want to head towards more of this overgrownish sort of, you're in the middle of a dense forest kind of feel, which we kind of have over there as we just stopped by in front of the flamingo enclosure, I'm gonna need to make these flower beds a little more natural, look a little more overgrown, not super manicured, etc. And there'll be places where we need to have super manicured flower beds, and they'll be there, but this I didn't think was one of the spots. I wanted to kind of open it up with the feel of the zoo. This is the first food court you'll hit when you walk in, so I wanted to have the zoo feel first. Here we're going to jump to the front entrance, as this episode is filling the gaps, so we're not just doing that food court. I was thinking about having just a mini episode with just the food court, but we're going to show a little bit of my work on the front entrance here. And this is the front plaza we haven't really touched since episode 1. Here I'm going to fill in these little areas with the overgrown like little natural beds. I don't know if they're necessarily called beds, but they're like natural plots that look really great. In the end, I'm really happy with it, and I want it to look super natural. Put a bunch of big rocks in it, and we put a little centerpiece as well on each one of these, and I think these look really great. Right when you walk through the gate, you see this nice supernatural conservation zoo sort of look. And I really like how it turns out. We want to make it look like it's northern North American. That's sort of hard to say fast, but a very, even Pacific Northwest sort of, even though I don't imagine this zoo being set in the Pacific Northwest. It kind of has that feel, lots of pines and lots of dense undergrowth foliage that's very dark and overflowing, and just looks super natural, like you're just walking through this manicured forest that's not particularly super manicured, but it looks like it's been built inside this super dense forest, and it's just gonna look great. It looks super natural. This is really the style I like building in and personally like, so this is what I want to go for our first project anyway. And you know, in the future I plan on investing in other zoos once we finish this one, but this one is really my baby, the first one we're gonna do, so we can move into more themed zoos later on, but this one I kind of want to go for this style. And we find that nice bear sculpture to put there. I wish it was a little less shiny. I wish it was just that matte dark like sculpture color that they have for a lot of these pieces, but I think it looks great. You know, I love the bear. It looks awesome. It's standing up. It's perfect for this like natural little foliage bed here, and it just looks really good. There's me finishing up a little there. We're gonna put a sign here, a little bit of a plaque saying like what this animal is. I assume would be a big like poster piece of the zoo. You know, people want to take pictures by this. Little kids will walk in and see it and want to take photos by it. So we name the bear, of course, and I think we'll have it as the same name of a grizzly bear we're gonna put in the park, just to make it sort of uniform, like, hey, this is the zoo's mascot. Along with this other, we're gonna put another sculpture in this basically identical flower bed that's mirrored on the other side. I take the same fencing and I take a little bit of the foliage, but I delete or rearrange a lot of the higher foliage, leave the undergrowth because the undergrowth looks great. But then we're gonna put this wolf, and I really wanted to put him on this like sort of plateau rock that looks really good. He looks like he's like standing up there to howl, and I really like how it turns out. I really like how this front area turned out, and I imagine in my head that we kind of make some fountains, but that's so cliche, you know. So I really like how it actually turned out. Here we are in the live portion of the video. We are back in the zoo, and I'm going to show you what I've been doing. And here we go. This is the entrance we started with, and we've added these traffic lights, but look at this. This is the overgrown sort of feel I want to go for. This is the sort of aesthetic we've been doing. Lots of dense forest here as we've really filled up this front area. It was really barren before, but now we've kind of used a lot of pines, low dense foliage in order to sort of fill out this area. So it looks super great, and I'm really happy with how it turns out. And this is kind of the look I want to go for, and I'm really happy about it. So here we're going to show a little bit more of the front area, and there we're going to put a little gift shop. But let's go through the front gates here and see what we've done. Look at these nice planters that we built, and that's the word, planters. I was using something else before when I was doing the voiceover, but planters is the word. So these nice planters we built this video, and there's the statue of the bear that we also did. And I think these look great. They really look great with the feel of the zoo. The wall pattern's great. And here's the staff building we built a little while ago off camera, but I think I might have to change it because it's not really looking as good as it could. This is going to be the gift shop that I'm going to put in. I don't know if I'm going to do it next video, but I'm going to do it in the future. Next video I kind of think I want to finish up the gift shop and I want to do another animal. I have an idea of what animal I want to do, but I don't really want to spoil it yet, so I won't say anything. And here's these little areas that we've filled up with some more dense foliage just to fill this out. We've extended the path along, made a nice curve here, and it looks super great, and I'm really happy with it, and everything just looks like it fits that really dense forest feel, really lots of pines, northern, sort of Pacific Northwest kind of feel, and that river looks great. It really does. And here's the bridge. The bridge looks a little different. We use a different path texture now. It's just like base wood instead of that kind of distressed wood, and I built this custom fence that we have here, and it looks really great. I think it looks a lot more secure and a lot better than the real fence that it actually, the sort of railing it puts on here. But it looks really good, and I think I might put a cover over this bridge in time, sort of make it like a covered bridge, kind of like a classic wooden cover bridge, but we'll see then. But this looks great. Look, I built that little peninsula. I put a lot of foliage work and rock work in there, and it just looks beautiful. And those dead trees just look fantastic. Really good with the feel we're going for here. And here's what we worked on this video towards the end. I built this fence that is not in the video. I did that off camera. And here's the planter, the little flower bed. It used to be a lot of flowers, but it's now this big natural sort of looking planter. And put those little stag statues, and then it looks great. And we're filling up these areas with this style, and I really like it. And I'm really happy with how this food court turned out. Really great use of the space. Fits in perfectly, looks like we built it naturally. Now, over here we're going to start, I think I have an idea of what I want to do. We've kind of built this. I don't think I'm going to put an animal in here. I think I'm going to move this fence, and we're going to put a little monorail or train station, kind of the thing you usually have inside of any sort of zoo to get around to the back of the zoo a little quicker if you kind of just want to see those animals and work your way back. So yeah, that's what we did in this video, and I'm really happy with it. I think these look great, and thank you everyone who watched the video. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I plan on posting twice a week now. I think that's the schedule we're going to go for, and I think it's going to work out. So thank you everyone, and I'll see you next time.